The jungle of Varix 9 was nothing like Earth. The air was thick and wet, buzzing with strange sounds. Bright plants glowed in the dark undergrowth, and every step felt dangerous. But the research team had no choice. They had to explore this part of the planet, even though the locals called it the Forbidden Zone. Among them was Draenei, the only alien female on the team. She was tall, her skin a pale blue, and her eyes shimmered like silver. Humans and her kind worked together on this mission, but the place made everyone uneasy, especially the human named Ethan. Ethan was a field biologist, always careful, always watching his step. But not everyone was as careful while studying a glowing vine. Draenei stepped back, and a sharp cry burst from her throat. She fell to the ground, clutching her thigh. Ethan spun around and saw it. A creature like a massive worm, dark and wet. With two curved fangs, it had bitten Draenei, leaving two deep holes in her flesh. Before anyone could react, the worm vanished into the dirt, Draenei's skin around. The bite turned dark almost instantly. Her breaths came fast, her eyes fluttering. The alien crew surrounded her in panic. They injected her with anti-venom serums, but nothing worked. Their scanners screamed warnings, unknown venom detected, cells breaking down fast. One alien whispered, "This is the fangworm, only found in the Forbidden Zone. There's no cure." Ethan knelt beside Draenei. Her body was trembling, the dark veins spreading up her leg. If they didn't stop the venom soon, she'd die within minutes. His mind raced. There had to be a way. Then he remembered something, an old Terran theory. Some venoms can break down when exposed to certain human enzymes, especially the acids found in human urine. It was a disgusting thought, but maybe their best chance. Ethan looked up at the others. "I might know a way," he said. They stared at him, desperate. "But it involves my urine," he said. Awkwardly, the aliens blinked, confused. They didn't understand human biology fully. Ethan explained, "On Earth, some toxins can be neutralized by acids in human waste." "I can try it." Draenei, barely awake, grabbed his wrist weakly. Her lips moved. "Do it, please," her silver eyes begged him. There was no more time to think. Ethan grabbed an empty container from his pack and moved behind a tree. It felt strange, humiliating even, but a life was at stake. When he returned, the others stepped back. He poured the liquid gently over the wound. At first, nothing. Then the flesh sizzled, steam rising. The black veins shivered. The aliens gasped, some covering their faces from the smell. But Ethan focused on Draenei. Her breathing slowed slightly. Her body stopped shaking. But just when he thought it was working, Draenei's eyes flew open, and she screamed. Her body arched, muscles tight, the veins pulsed with light. Then she collapsed, still and silent. The aliens roared with anger. One grabbed Ethan's collar, shouting in their language, accusing him of killing her. Ethan shouted back, "I did what I could. The venom was killing her." But they didn't believe him. Another one said, "You poisoned her with your waste." Just as they prepared to drag him away, Draenei gasped. Her eyes opened again. Her hand shot up, weak but firm. "Stop, she said. The aliens froze. Draenei sat up slowly, groaning. She looked at her leg. The wound was no longer black, the veins returning to normal color. "It worked," she whispered, staring at Ethan. "You saved me." The aliens were silent. Shocked, their scanners confirmed. The venom was gone. Ethan sighed with relief. But when he met Draenei's eyes, something was different. She looked at him with a strange expression. Not just gratitude, but something deeper. "You touched me with your essence," she said softly. "In my culture, that means something else." Ethan frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" But before she could answer, she fainted again, exhausted but alive. Ethan sat back, breathing hard. He saved her life, but he had no idea what he had just triggered. Around them, the jungle stayed silent, as if watching, and deep under the soil, more fangworms stirred, sensing the change above. The Forbidden Zone was not done with them yet. The sun of Verex 9 was setting, turning the sky into deep purple. The air grew cooler, but the tension in the camp was thick. Ethan sat by the small fire, his mind replaying what had happened. He had saved Draenei, but at a strange cost. The aliens kept their distance from him now. They whispered in their language, stealing glances. Some looked afraid of him, others angry. Ethan didn't understand why. Suddenly, he heard soft steps behind him. He turned, and there was Draenei, wrapped in a thermal cloak, limping but awake. Her silver eyes reflected the firelight. She sat across from him silently. Watching him, Ethan cleared his throat. "How are you feeling?" he asked. She gave a faint smile. "Alive, thanks to you," she whispered. Then she stared at the flames for a moment before adding, "But there's something you need to know." Ethan tilted his head. "What is it?" Draenei took a deep breath. "In my species, there is an old belief, a sacred law," she said. "If a person heals another using their own body's essence, like blood or liquid, they are bound." Ethan repeated. She nodded slowly, her voice serious. "Yes, it's called the Seal of Fluids. It means ... we are now mates." Ethan coughed in surprise. "Mates? Like ... married?" "That wasn't my intention." Draenei smiled faintly, her eyes glimmering. "I know it wasn't, but the bond doesn't care about intentions. The act itself created the link." Ethan felt his face burn. This was insane. All he did was try to save her, but to her people. He had accidentally proposed, and she had accepted by surviving. The others had been whispering because they knew. They believed the human had claimed Draenei as his mate. Ethan raised his hands. "There has to be a way to reverse this," he said, but Draenei shook her head. "No reversal. Not unless one of us dies." Ethan's stomach sank. Suddenly, the ground trembled slightly. They both looked up. A low rumble echoed from the jungle. Something was moving out there, something big. An alien scout ran into camp. "There's movement near the ridge. Fangworms, a whole nest. They are coming this way." Everyone jumped to prepare weapons. Draenei stood, still weak but determined. But then she stumbled, and Ethan caught her. When his hand touched her arm, a pulse of light rippled through her skin. Everyone saw it. A faint blue glow, like energy. Draenei's eyes widened. "The bond. It's active," she said. "Your touch strengthens me." Ethan stared at his hand. He wasn't just bonded in name. Their connection was real. Something biological had changed in her. She was stronger when he was near. The aliens looked at them both with awe and fear. Then the scout yelled again. "The Vorms are coming. If they reach us, we'll all be dead." Ethan grabbed a plasma rifle. "I'm not a soldier, but I'll fight," he said. Draenei smiled weakly. "And I'll fight by your side, mate." The night was about to fall, but the real darkness was approaching with the crawling swarm of fangworms. Ethan never imagined he'd be bonded to an alien, and now their lives depended on that bond. As the ground shook again, Ethan whispered to himself, "This is not the trip I signed up for." But there was no turning back. The Forbiddens Zone had chosen them both for something deeper, and the jungle was watching, waiting to see if they would survive the night. The ground did not stop shaking. The vibrations came like a slow heartbeat, and then faster, and gripped his plasma rifle tighter, staring into the darkness of the jungle. The others stood ready, but the fear on their faces was clear. Draenei leaned on Ethan, her body still weak but her eyes alert. She whispered, "They never come this close to camps unless something is driving them." Ethan looked at her, confused. "What does that mean?" She stared at him, her voice serious. "The Fangvorms ... They smell the bond on me now, the connection between us." Ethan's stomach sank. "You're saying ... they're coming because of us?" She nodded. "Yes." The bond released a scent. "It's ancient, instinctive. The Vorms think I've changed ... evolved, maybe. They want to consume that change." Ethan cursed under his breath. They weren't just facing a random swarm. They had become the target. Suddenly, the first fangworm burst from the undergrowth. Its skin was like wet, black leather, its mouth full of needle-like teeth. The camp's defense lights snapped on, casting harsh beams into the jungle. Then more worms emerged. Dozens. Their bodies slithering like giant serpents, their eyes glowing faintly. They circled the camp. Hissing, watching, waiting to strike, the alien leader shouted, "Hold the line! Protect the bond-bearers!" Ethan frowned. "Bond-bearers?" he asked. Draenei smiled weakly. "They mean us. You and me." Ethan raised his rifle. He had never fought in a real battle, but he wouldn't let Draenei die, not after what they'd been through. Then the first worm lunged. Ethan fired. The plasma bolt hit the creature's head, but it only slowed it down. Another worm leapt over the barricade, knocking an alien guard down. Screams filled the air. Plasma fire lit up the night, but there were too many of them. Ethan fired again and again, his arms burning. Then he felt Draenei's hand on his shoulder. A warm pulse rushed through his body like a shot of energy. His aim became sharper, his muscles steadier. Draenei's eyes glowed faintly. "The bond is feeding you, making you stronger," she said, amazed. It was true. Ethan moved faster than ever before, his shots precise. But the worms kept coming. Then one of the larger fangworms reared up, its head almost twice the size of Ethan. It opened its jaws, and Ethan saw something inside, a faint light, pulsing like a heart. Draenei gasped, "That's the Alpha. Kill it, or they won't stop." Ethan didn't hesitate. He sprinted forward, dodging the snapping teeth of smaller worms. Aliens shouted warnings, but he didn't stop. Draenei watched, breathless, feeling the bond between them stretch. She could feel his heartbeat in her mind, fast, brave, determined. Ethan slid under the Alpha's body. Raising his rifle, he aimed for the pulsing heart inside its mouth. One shot, then another. The Alpha screeched, shaking the earth. Then, with one last shot, the heart inside the Alpha exploded. A wave of energy blasted outward. The other worms screamed and thrashed. Then, silence. The surviving worms fled into the jungle, hissing in fear. The Alpha lay still, its body twitching once before dying completely. Ethan stood over it, breathing hard. His body ached, but he was alive. When he looked back, Draenei was watching him. With awe in her eyes, the aliens gathered, murmuring. One of them whispered, "The bond has made them powerful together. This is the old prophecy." Ethan walked back to Draenei. She smiled softly. "You didn't just save me again, you've changed me." "And yourself." Ethan wiped his brow. "I don't even know what I'm becoming," he muttered. But deep in the shadows of the jungle, something else watched. Eyes that were neither worm nor human, something intelligent. It whispered in a language older than stars. "The bond has awakened, Tell the council, the old powers are rising again." The night was over, but a larger game had just begun, and Ethan and Draenei were now pieces in it. Whether they liked it or not. The camp was silent. Dead worms littered the ground, steam rising from their bodies. The air still carried the sharp, bitter smell of plasma fire, but Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. Even with the swarm defeated, something in the jungle still watched. Waiting, Draenei sat on a crate, eyes half closed, her body still recovering. Her skin glowed faintly under the starlight. The bond between them pulsed, not as pain, but as a steady thrum. Like a heartbeat shared between two beings. Ethan knelt beside her. "How's your leg?" he asked. She opened her eyes slowly. "Better, But the bond is changing me," she whispered. "I can feel my senses sharpening. I hear things, Voices in the trees." Ethan frowned, glancing toward the dark jungle voices. He heard nothing but the wind. Then the alien leader approached. A tall figure named Commander Relk, his face stern. "You both need to leave this zone," Relk said. "The worms were just the beginning. Something far worse lives here." Ethan stood, frustrated. "We were told the Forbidden Zone was dangerous, but not why." Relk hesitated, then he said quietly, Because of the Watchers, ancient beings that protect the deep jungle. They don't show themselves unless disturbed, and your bond has disturbed them. Ethan exchanged glances with Draenei. What are the Watchers? He asked. Relk's voice dropped lower. No one knows for sure. Some say they're the original inhabitants of this planet, older than any civilization. They observe, they judge. If they find you unworthy, they erase you. Draenei's eyes darkened. They know we're here already, she whispered. I can feel them, their eyes. Everywhere. Suddenly, the torches around the camp flickered. A cold wind blew, carrying with it whispers, soft, alien, unearthly. Everyone stood still. The air felt thicker, like breathing through water. Then, without warning, a shadow stepped forward from the trees. It wasn't like any creature Ethan had seen. It was tall, draped in flowing dark strands like living vines, its face hidden behind a mask of bone and gold, its eyes glowing white. No one moved. The shadow raised a long hand and pointed directly at Ethan. Its voice was deep, vibrating inside their bones. You carry the bond. You awaken the seed, it said. Ethan's mouth was dry. What seed? He asked. The shadow tilted its head. The bond between human and Qatari was forbidden for a reason. You have revived it. Now the seed will grow, and worlds will change. Draenei tried to stand but fell to her knees, clutching her head. Visions flashed through her mind. Cities burning, skies dark with warships, a planet split in half. She screamed, the pain too much. Ethan grabbed her, shaking her gently. What are you seeing, Draenei? The Watcher watched silently. Then it whispered, the bond comes with a price. You will both be hunted, by your own kind. And ours. Ethan stared at the creature. Why? We didn't ask for this. But the Watcher only said, choice is an illusion. The bond was meant to stay buried. Now it blooms. Prepare yourselves, human, Qatari, or be consumed by what follows. Then the Watcher stepped back, vanishing into the trees like smoke. The whispers faded, but the chill remained. Draenei breathed hard, eyes wet with tears. I saw destruction, war, and us standing in the middle of it all. Ethan swallowed. He was just a biologist, now somehow marked as the center of an ancient prophecy. The aliens in the camp stared at them with fear and pity. Commander Relk finally spoke. We need to leave this planet. Now the Watchers have spoken. They won't give another warning. Ethan helped Draenei to her feet. But deep in the jungle, more shadows moved, silent, waiting. The Watchers weren't the only ones awake now, and far across the stars, something else stirred, an old enemy that had waited centuries for the bond to return. The ship's engines roared as they escaped Verex 9. Ethan stood near the viewing window, watching the cursed planet shrink into the void. Beside him, Draenei rested, still weak but her breathing steady, yet the bond between them never stopped, pulsing like a tether pulling them closer every time Ethan touched her. Her skin shimmered faintly, as if something inside her was alive, changing, growing. They didn't speak much, but the silence between them was heavy. Both of them knew something had begun on that planet, and it wouldn't stop just because they ran. But far across the galaxy, light years away, something old had awakened. In the cold dark of a forgotten sector, a massive ship drifted silently. Its surface was cracked like bone. And inside, machines long dead began to stir. In the center chamber, a figure floated inside a glass pod, neither alive nor dead. Its body was a fusion of flesh and metal, its face hidden by a cruel mask. Suddenly, lights flickered, and a mechanical voice whispered, the bond has returned. Awaken the Herald. The figure's eyes snapped open, glowing red. His name was Vexar, a warlord from an age before recorded history. His mission had failed centuries ago, to destroy the bond, before it could unite species. But now, the bond had revived, and his duty was clear: kill the bonded pair. Burn any world that protected them. Back on the fleeing ship, Ethan was called to the command deck. Commander Relk looked tense. "We've picked up signals," Relk said. "Ships moving from the outer sectors. Ancient signals. Unregistered. But hostile." Ethan's chest tightened. "What do they want?" Relk looked at him darkly. "You human. And her. They're coming for you both." Ethan shook his head. "I'm just a scientist. I didn't ask for this bond. I didn't want any of this." Draenei entered quietly, her steps lighter but her eyes troubled. "You may not want it," she said. Softly, "but it's part of you now. Part of us." She touched his hand, and the glow returned, soft but undeniable. Everyone on the bridge watched, uncertain whether to be in awe or afraid. Draenei looked into Ethan's eyes. "In my visions, I saw you leading armies," she whispered. "But I also saw you holding me, keeping me alive, choosing me when everything burned." Ethan's throat felt dry. "How can I lead anyone? I don't even know what's happening to us." Then Draenei touched her chest. "Because the bond isn't just between us ... It carries something else. A seed of unity, that's what the Watchers called it. It makes us more than ourselves, a bridge between species." Relk stepped forward. "If that's true, then enemies will come from every corner of the galaxy to stop you. Some fear unity more than war." The ship's alarms suddenly blared. A fleet had jumped into range, ships dark as midnight, shaped like knives. At their center was the flagship, the Bone Dagger, Vexar. "War vessel," Relk cursed. "That's no scavenger fleet. That's a Reaper armada." Ethan clenched his fists. He had no army, no training, just a rifle and a burning connection to an alien woman he barely knew. But he looked at Draenei, her strength flowing into him through the bond. "I'm tired of running," Ethan said. "We fight," Draenei smiled faintly. "Together then." The crew began preparing defenses. Ethan stood at the observation window, watching the enemy ships approach like shadows ready to swallow like. But for the first time, he wasn't just a human lost in the stars. He was bonded, chosen by fate. Or mistake, but chosen nonetheless. And across the void, in his bone throne, Vexar smiled behind his mask. "Run or fight, bonded ones. I will end your story either way." But the story was far from over. It was only just awakening. The enemy fleet hung like a wall of darkness in space. Hundreds of ships, silent but deadly, blocking every escape path on the bridge of the human alien. "Research vessel." Alarms flashed red. Ethan stood still, staring at the approaching doom. Commander Relk's voice was grim. "They've surrounded us. There is no path out." Ethan looked at Draenei. She stood next to him, her silver eyes glowing faintly even now. Her skin shimmered with soft energy where he had once touched her wound. Ethan whispered, "We can't win this." Draenei took his hand. "We can't win alone." Suddenly the bond between them pulsed, harder, stronger. A sharp light burst between their joined hands. Everyone on the bridge gasped as the glow expanded. Ethan felt something inside his mind unlock, like a sealed door swinging open. Images, sensations, languages he didn't know flooded his mind. He saw visions of ancient warriors, alien cities, battles fought long before Earth was born. Then a voice inside his head spoke, not Draenei's, not his own. "The seed is awakening, Protector." His body felt lighter, his senses sharper. He heard every heartbeat on the ship, felt the vibrations of the enemy cannons charging. Ethan ... Draenei whispered, "Your eyes." He turned to her. His eyes were glowing blue-white, pure energy, like twin stars trapped in his skull. Without thinking, he stretched out his hand toward the observation window. The space before them rippled like water. Then a giant shield of light bloomed in front of the ship, covering them completely, a living barrier. Shaped by thought, by instinct, the first wave of enemy fire struck the shield, but didn't break it. The bridge crew stared. In awe, Ethan's legs trembled, but he didn't stop. The voice in his mind whispered again, You are the first human to awaken the bond fully. Do not let it break. Commander Relk was speechless. What is this power? Draenei stood close to Ethan, her own eyes bright. The bond makes us more. Together we can protect. The enemy flagship, the Bone Dagger, fired its supercannon. A beam meant to pierce planets. Ethan groaned, the pressure crushing his bones. His nose bled, but he held the shield. Draenei placed her hands on his shoulders. The pulse between them doubled. She whispered in his ear, "I'm here, Ethan. Take my strength." The glow expanded. The shield flared brighter. Then the supercannon's beam broke apart, scattered by the energy wall on the Bone Dagger. Vexar stood from his throne, his red eyes narrowing. Impossible. A human wielding the bond's power? This should not be. Back on the research ship, Ethan collapsed to his knees, panting. Draenei held him close. He looked up, his voice shaky. "I don't know what I just did, but I think we can fight back." Relk ordered the crew to ready their weapons, but everyone knew the truth. The only real weapon they had now was the bond between Ethan and Draenei. Yet Ethan also knew something deeper. The power came at a cost. He could feel his body weakening each time he called on it. If he pushed too far, it might kill him. But Ethan looked at Draenei's worried face and smiled faintly. "For you, I'll push further," he whispered. And somewhere in the shadows of space, Vexar prepared his next move. He would not just fight them, he would find a way to sever the bond forever. Because if the bond survived, it could unite species, end wars, and create peace. And monsters like Vexar could never allow that. The real war had begun, and Ethan ... was no longer just human. Space burned. The Bone Dagger's fleet closed in. Dark vessels moving, wolves circling a wounded prey. On board the research vessel, Ethan wiped blood from his nose, his body trembling from the last defense he summoned. He was breaking inside. Each time he called the bond's power, he felt his life drain a little more. Draenei saw it too. The glow in his eyes flickered. His breathing shallow, yet she stayed close, refusing to let go. Then the enemy's comms crackled alive. A deep, metallic voice echoed across the ship. "Human, surrender. I am Vexar, keeper of the old war. Give me the bonded female, and I will spare your fragile life." Ethan chuckled weakly. "That's not much of a deal," he muttered. Commander Relk looked grim. "He'll destroy us either way." Draenei turned to Ethan, her voice soft but sure. "I can go to him. He wants me, not you." Ethan grabbed her hand, his grip weak but firm. "No, we survive together ... or not at all." Then the bond pulsed again, stronger than ever. Draenei gasped. She saw flashes, visions of Ethan dying, of herself taken in chains, of galaxies burning. She shook her head. "No, this ends now." She kissed Ethan's forehead gently and whispered, "Trust me." Before Ethan could protest, Draenei stepped into the center of the bridge. She raised her arms, and the bond between them ignited. Her body glowed brighter than ever, her veins lit with pure energy. She was channeling both their lives, hers and Ethan's. Ethan tried to stop her, but his body was too weak. Draenei smiled at him sadly. "If I can save you, I'll pay the price," she whispered. She unleashed the bond's full power. A sphere of light shot outward from her, crossing space instantly. It smashed through the Bone Dagger's fleet, burning ships to ash. When the light hit the Bone Dagger itself, the ship cracked open like an egg on his throne. Vexar screamed, his body disintegrating. But before vanishing, his last words echoed, "You think this ends me? The bond will doom you yet ... Then, silence. The enemy fleet was gone. Space was quiet, but Draenei collapsed to the floor, her glow fading. Ethan crawled to her side. She was pale, barely breathing. "No. Please, no," Ethan whispered. She opened her eyes faintly. "I gave it all to save you, my mate," she said, smiling weakly. Then her eyes closed. The bridge crew stood frozen. Ethan held her, tears running down his face. But then the bond pulsed again. He felt her heartbeat, faint, but there, not dead. Not yet. Ethan gritted his teeth. He focused all his energy into the bond. You saved me. Now it's my turn, he whispered. He kissed her forehead. The bond's light returned, gentle, warm. Her breathing deepened. Her eyes fluttered open. She was alive, weaker, but alive. They stared at each other. Two beings connected not just by accident, but by choice. Commander Relk stepped forward. You two are something this galaxy has never seen, he said. Ethan looked up. We're not done. We'll find out what this bond really is. Together, somewhere in deep space, an echo of Vexar's laugh drifted, because even in death, he knew the truth. The bond had saved them, but one day, it might also destroy them. For now, though, Ethan and Draenei had each other, and their story was just beginning.